So I first started playing Magic in like middle school with the boys, but I wasn't allowed to have my own Magic cards. So a family friend was really into it, and whenever I went over to his house, we would build decks and like do all the nerd things, and they were like completely trash and held together with rubber bands, like everybody's worst nightmare. No sleeves, and I would play with him and some other friends, and I don't really remember much about the games, but I remember like just really loving certain typals like worms and angels and vampires. And I played a lot of video games before that, and this was kind of a way to play with other people. This was well before multiplayer games and that kind of thing, so, or at least in my life. So it was something that I could kind of experience a hobby with someone. And it was really nice. It was a way that we could get together and hang out and like really enjoy spending time together. And I took a really long break from it when I got into high school. I got interested in other things, and I left for the military and didn't really play again until many years later. And I was at a kitchen table group in Hawaii that really got me passionate into Magic again. But I don't want to say an addictive personality, but I had a personality where I'd just dive full into something, and I didn't really have time for that at the time, and I didn't want to get into it. So when I moved, I didn't really keep Magic going. And I think everybody kind of goes through this process where you sell all your cards off and you get out of Magic and you're like, I'm done with it forever. And that was me. I was done. I was like, yeah, I've had my fun. I'm over it. I'll just go on. And then the pandemic happened, and I know a lot of people got into these types of games and got into Spell Table because of the pandemic. But for me, during the pandemic, I actually started a business. And you don't plan these things. You're not like, you know what's great? Let's have a pandemic and then start a business. Like, that's not how it went. We had just happened, the things happened at the same time. And then I was in New York doing my first trip alone for the business, and we had an emergency, and that changed my life in a whole bunch of different ways. But the primary way was that I was stuck at home again, kind of like people were during the pandemic. And here in the South, I didn't really experience the pandemic in the way that a lot of people did. So I got that feeling a couple years later where I felt like I couldn't go anywhere without having to take care of things at home, and I couldn't travel, and I couldn't see people anymore, and I lost my job that I had, and I lost my business, and I lost everything. And it was actually a couple of guys, I'm still really good friends with one of them, that got me to play Magic again. I was looking for a way to have people come to me so that I had some kind of social group outside of my own household, and they convinced me to play Magic. At first, I didn't want to get into it. I didn't want to get all the way deep into Magic. And so we bought the game night kit, which comes with 5 decks. And I figured this is a really easy way to keep it to itself. And it's like a board game. It's not Magic. It's not going deep off the deep end. And before that, I'd never been to a game store really. I'd never participated in events. I'd never gone to a con. I had just played with friends casually. I'd played kitchen table, and I'd played this game night thing. But I got really into it, and I had found people streaming content and streaming Commander, and I just started following those people and playing games with them and getting to know people that I never thought I would be able to reach. And my friend group got bigger, and then I bravely stepped into an LGS for the first time and started playing draft and limited format. Don't overthink it. Don't overspend. Like, You don't need all the cards. You don't need all the decks. You don't need all the boxes. You don't need all the supplies. And I say that as someone who has them all, right? Like, we all spend quite a bit of money on Magic when we really get into it. But focus on what parts of the game make you happy and dive into that. If you like token making decks, build yourself the best token deck that you can and spend time working at that deck, perfecting that deck, getting that deck better, especially Commander, because it's going to be different every single time you play. Now, even if you have like the most perfect, bestest deck ever, it's going to play a little different every time. And I think remembering that it's a game and that you're there to enjoy time with other people is super important. That you don't have to win every time, that it's okay to lose. But the most important part of Magic, honestly, is the gathering.